Hello everyone, my name is Bogdan from InstaDoodle. This is going to be the third video in our three-part series where we create a project from scratch using InstaDoodle alone. Now, if this is the first time that you're seeing this series, I recommend that you go through part 1 and 2 before watching this, or else it might be a little bit confusing. So without any further delay, let's start. We were just about to create slide 9 in our project, so let's go ahead and do it. And instead of generating a new Maria, we're actually going to use one that we've already generated before. And I also need a sizzling pan filled with hearty mix of ground meat, finely chopped carrots, onions, and garlic. The ingredients are well combined and slightly browned, creating a savory, rich mixture with visible textures and a hint of steam rising from the pan. And with that prompt, we now have our pan filled with all of the ingredients that we need. We need a background. I'm going to use the one that I've used before and just add a little bit of blur to the background. Set the animation type and the animation speed of all the elements on our slide. And we can now add our speech bubble, where we can have to set the animation speed and use step 4 in red, and we add the meat as text. Set the animation speed and animation type for each. We also have to make sure that the sizzling pan is the last thing being drawn on the slide, and we need a voiceover for this. The voiceover will be step 4, add the ground meat over the vegetables and let everything cook gently together. Now that we have the voiceover, we can look at the slide duration and see if anything needs modifying. Remember that the slide duration should not be less than the duration of the voiceover. So now moving on to the next slide, we're going to go ahead and generate Maria. We'll use the same prompt that we used before, but we'll also add that she holds a wooden spoon in one hand and a confident and focused expression. And with the result, we'll go ahead and add it to the slide. The next prompt we'll use is a thick stream of tomato sauce being poured from a jar over a sizzling mixture of minced meat, finely chopped garlic, carrot, and onion. The rich red sauce spreads across the pan. Now we have it. I'm just going to flip it onto the canvas and just modify the animation speed, and we need a background. For that, we're going to use the prompt, a vibrant, soft pastel background with subtle outlines of a kitchen. The colors pop with shades of light yellow, turquoise, and soft coral, creating a fresh and energetic vibe. The outlines of kitchen elements, like the counter and shelves, are lightly sketched. Once the background's added, let's add a little bit of blur to it and add a speech bubble, where we will have step 5 in red, and then modify the animation speed and just add a text saying add the tomato sauce, and then make sure that the pan is the last thing being drawn on our slide, and then all we need is a voiceover. The voiceover for this one is going to be, next we pour the tomato sauce, letting it mix with the meat and vegetables. And we can now move on to the next slide. Now in this one, I'm actually not going to use the prompt that we've been using for Maria. I'm going to generate using a different prompt. Similar, but different. Specifically, a red-haired female chef with a white apron labeled Olira, standing slightly to the side, smiling warmly. Her expression is satisfied. Once she's added to the canvas and resized, we can go ahead and generate the next element, which the prompt for it is going to be. Cooked spaghetti is added directly into the pan over a rich mixture of minced meat, garlic, carrot, onion, and tomato sauce. The pasta blends with the sauce, soaking in the delicious flavors in the sizzling pan. And now for the background, I'm going to use a simple prompt, a subtle, faded kitchen background with soft, neutral colors. The kitchen elements are barely visible. I like this first one. Let's add it to the slide and make sure that it's behind both Maria and the pan, and modify the animation speed and animation type of each element that we've added so far. And afterwards, we can go ahead and add our speech bubble. This time it's going to be upside down and below, and we're going to add step 6 in red, and then we add the pasta as text. Make sure to modify the animation speed and animation type, and then we need a voiceover. So let's go ahead and generate it with Sophie. The voiceover is going to be, our recipe is almost complete. Now we add the pasta over the sauce and mix it well, ensuring that the sauce soaks in every strand of pasta for that perfect flavorful bite. Now the voiceover is a little bit too long, so I need to set the slide transition to wipe, and then we're also going to add a bit of end delay to our pan to make sure that the slide duration is longer than the voiceover. We also need to make sure that the pan is also the last thing being drawn on the slides. Now let's go ahead and generate Maria for our next slide. The prompt that I'm going to be using is a female chef with red hair styled in a loose braid, wearing a short sleeve shirt, a white apron with the word Olira written on it. She stands in the kitchen with one hand confidently placed on her hip. And with that, we can go ahead and generate the final dish, which is going to be the prompt hot bolognese pasta with a generous amount of grated Parmesan cheese on top, perfectly plated and steaming. So let's go ahead and add it to the canvas, make it large, and just make sure to modify the animation type and animation speed. Let's add a speech bubble, but this time we'll add a different one, this one specifically. Let's add the text and voila, just make it a bit bigger, red, and give it a bit of panache. Make sure to modify the animation speed and type, and also put in some end delay for the last element being drawn on the slide. The voiceover for this slide is going to be, our pasta is now ready to enjoy, perfectly cooked and full of rich homemade flavor. After we make sure that everything's okay on this slide, what I want to do is I want to duplicate the first slide that we've made and then drag it. So the thumbnail hasn't actually updated yet, but just drag, that's the second slide, over as the last. And now the thumbnail's updated and we have the first slide as the last, but we'll modify the text into enjoy your meal, make it red, give it a bit of panache, and then we actually also need a voiceover. So delete the one that's already there and we'll generate a new one, which is going to be enjoy your meal and I can't wait to welcome you back into my kitchen. Generate that with Sophie, add it to the slide. So now our slides are basically complete. So let's add a soundtrack from the soundtrack category, and we'll choose this one. Yep, I think that fits perfectly. Let's add it to the project, set the volume to 20% and set it on loop, just in case the video ends up being longer than the song. And with that, our project is now complete and ready to render. So congratulations for making it this far. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to put this recipe to its paces in real life immediately after ending this video. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope that this will help you create more wonderful videos using InstaDoodle.
Hi, I'm Maria and welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're making delicious spaghetti bolognese, and I'll walk you through every step of the process. For starters, we'll begin by prepping 1 onion, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 carrot, and 250 milliliters of tomato sauce. These ingredients will form the base of our delicious bolognese sauce, adding rich flavor and depth to the dish. Next, we'll prepare 500 grams of mixed beef and pork meat. This combination will give the sauce a perfect balance of flavor and texture, making our bolognese rich and hearty. Let's not forget the spaghetti, and for an even better flavor, we'll also add some Parmesan cheese. This will elevate the dish and bring out the rich, savory taste of the bolognese sauce. The first step is to add the spaghetti to salted water and let it boil until it's perfectly al dente, just the right texture. We let the pasta boil for 15 minutes, and once it's ready, we'll move on to the next step to complete our delicious dish. The second step is to finely chop the onion, garlic, and carrot. These ingredients are essential for building a flavorful base for our bolognese sauce, and they will infuse the dish with a rich, aromatic taste that enhances every bite. Step 3. Sauté the onion, garlic, and carrot together to start building the flavor. Step 4. Add the ground meat over the vegetables and let everything cook gently together. Next, we pour in the tomato sauce, letting it blend with the meat and vegetables. Our recipe is almost complete. Now we add the pasta over the sauce and mix it well, ensuring the sauce soaks into every strand of pasta for that perfect, flavorful bite. Our pasta is now ready to enjoy, perfectly cooked and full of rich, homemade flavor. Enjoy your meal, and I can't wait to welcome you back into my kitchen soon.